Hi guys, how are we? Elvis Presley Fan on keto. So I've had a fun morning this morning doing all these song reaction. So how is everyone? Okay, we're going to carry on doing what we started doing yesterday. We have this amazing fan, Jamie Kay, who in the mid 1950s was obviously well into rock and roll, even before Elvis's style of rock and roll came along. She loved dancing. She just was full of life, wasn't she? And this underground thing that was happening with rock and roll. Hi, Deborah. And so she sort of had her own little just at home fan club. Never really knowing that how it would evolve and like change. So yesterday we played the first half of Jamie Kay's interview. Obviously she's passed now. This is somebody else's interview, and I just thought, what a great story. Hi Pat, I'm doing very well, thank you. I just thought, what a great story. We played yesterday was like the build up on her story, but this second half of the interview is brilliant. Brilliant. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So guys, just something, let me just, obviously we're on Elvis Presley Fan on keto, so I can talk about the diet. Let's make it bigger. There we go. So that you got, so I've started a diet yesterday. I've gone full carnivore. I've gone to just eating the camera, look at it. Whoa. Whoa, it's because I'm raising my hands up. It's so funny, isn't it, guys? Look. But it won't let me move over. It's just, this system makes me laugh. Right, 1 second. Let me just put the camera back to where it's supposed to be. 1 second. Okay, let's get the settings back up. So as I was saying, I've changed my diet a bit because I want to lose some weight. I weighed myself yesterday. I'm 11 stone 9, which is heavier than normal for me. Where are we? Let's get you back up again. That's better. Back to normal. Obviously, this is Elvis Presley Fan on keto. So, of course, right, let me just get all the stuff right. I got it all set up, I think. Right. I think that's okay. We'll press play in a second, just make sure that works. But yeah, so I weighed myself yesterday, 11 stone 9. So yesterday I started the diet. Guys, you know I'm keto. So I eat fatty meat eggs. I eat twice a day. I have eggs and bacon for lunch. I have steak and lamb ribs and pork bellies, sometimes eggs at tea time. I don't eat anything else. Sometimes I have a bit of fruit, tangerine or plum. Sometimes I have nuts. Now, I have butter coffees. So I've been sort of thinking about the diet. I've been thinking, why have I put on a bit of weight around here? So I decided I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. So before I was doing a 24-hour fast, so only eating once a day. And I'm going to completely stop any fruit or nuts. And I literally will just be eating meat and eggs, fatty meat, of course. And I reckon if I do that for 2 weeks, I reckon I'll get myself back down to 11 stone, which is where I like to be. I'm happy at 11 stone. So I weighed myself today. Even only after 1 day, I'm 11 stone 8. So I've already dropped nearly a pound just from yesterday. After 1 day, I have increased my walks as well. Obviously, you know I run. You know I do a little bit of weightlifting. So I've took some pictures. I've took a picture of the scales. 11 stone 8. That's, you might want to convert that into kilograms. But guys, you watch me. I'm going to lose 8 pounds with you. You got every day. I'm going to update you over the next 2 weeks. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah. I'll stop some pictures of before and after. We're going to do a bit of that. We only do that here on Elvis Presley Fan on Keto. So let's get back to this brilliant interview. Okay, guys. Now this is like, she's passed away. She's such a lovely lady. Her story is so interesting. She met Elvis. She had cuddles and kissed Elvis, and just from being a fan and running a fan club, which became very successful, she had a very interesting life, even making movies. She was a dancer and so many more things. A very, very interesting lady. So let's see if we can get this up and press play, see if it's going to work.
It was a girl thing. And now I think more guys are getting into it, and Elvis impersonators and all that. I think I'm good with that. I'm kind of good with anything Elvis is okay. You know, if you want to get up there and put on Black Leather dance, you know, go for it. It's like, hey, I wish both of my husbands had wanted to be more like Elvis. I'd still be married, you know.
Oh, me too, girl. Me too.
As much like Elvis as you really want to, go for it.
Yeah. Another thing we have in common.
Yeah, don't hold back.
So being that already the age that you are in the 50s, you guys, your group, your generation, you're fighting back. You're staying true to yourself. And one of those things is not only being a fan of Elvis Presley, but you're the fan club president. So can you talk to us a little bit about the first time you met Elvis Presley?
The first time was I got a letter from the Colonel Parker's office. And I guess because they had no fan club presidents or anything set up or organized, I was like, okay, I was favored in kind of a way because I was something they didn't have at the time. And so they sent me a letter and said, you know, Elvis is coming to San Antonio. Of course, that was like over 180 miles away from my house. And they acted like it was just right across the street, you know. And if you would like, the Colonel said, if you want to meet Elvis, Colonel will make arrangements for you two. And so I said, I'll find a way.
So could you imagine that, guys? Colonel is going to help her meet the Colonel. It's like, wow.
And so,
help her meet Elvis.
I had grown up in grammar school in San Antonio, Texas. That was where he was going to be, San Antonio. And so I had a really good friend that I grew up in grammar school with, and her family that I was like my parents. They were like, we were real close.
Now, I said this in part one, guys. This woman, I don't know how old she is. She's definitely in her 70s, I would say. The energy that she gives off, the aura, the sort of the vibe she has, is very, very youthful, even though she is obviously quite old, guys.
And I thought her name was Tina. And I thought I could stay with Tina. Mother will let me go. I could get a Greyhound bus and I could go down there. That was my plan. And so I wrote back to the office, says, yes. I said, oh, yes, I would like to do that. And so she said, well, you will be receiving a telegram from Colonel Tom Parker authorizing you to get backstage in San Antonio. And back then, telegrams, that was like, we don't really have them now, but it was like an authorized thing, you know, with Parker from Parker's office. So I got this telegram and I was just, wow.
So you can see what's happening here. This is the fan club evolving, yeah? So from nothing, suddenly she's in a position where thousands of people are sending her letters asking about this fan club. So she's got the backing of Colonel Tom Parker now. So let's keep it.
Let's get that suitcase packed. Let's get on the road. And so I went down to San Antonio, Texas, and I walked up to, there was a huge crowd there. It was April 15th, 1956.
And remember, this is a big deal, guys. She's about to meet Elvis. I think all of you, when she starts telling you what happens when she meets Elvis, are going to be quite envious. Quite envious. Let's keep listening.
And I walked up to the backstage door and knocked on it, and a guy opened it up, and I said, I have this telegram from Colonel Parker. It was like, open, oh sesame, you know, it's like, open the door. And he looks at it, he said, oh, come right on in. I mean, that worked. And so I went on in, and he took me to an area where there was the dressing rooms. He said, Elvis is in there, just go in. I'm thinking, oh, I just go in. I can barely breathe right now.
See that? She can barely breathe. How would you feel, guys, if it was you? Leave it in the comments.
If I walk in that door and Elvis Presley's there, I'm going to faint. So finally I got my nerve up. I had a lot of nerve, baby. And I
You could tell that she had a lot of nerve, yeah?
opened the door and there he was. He's sitting in front of a mirror and he was like doing his ducktails. And he sees me in the mirror and he spins around and he turns around.
Guys, seriously, put yourselves in her shoes, yeah? She walks in, Elvis is sat there doing his hair in the mirror. And he spins around. What would you do? What would you do? Remember, she's never met him. She's just a fan. Obviously, she's well into that whole scene, the rock and roll scene that is transforming the teenagers in the mid-50s. Elvis is there. What are you going to do, guys?
He walks up to me as close as he can get. And I say, I'm your fan club president. Stop. I'm your fan club president. I'm Kay Wheeler. I'm your fan club president. He says, oh, tell me what you want me to do.
Tell me what you want me to do. What would you say? In the comments, guys, what would you say?
Boy, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Whoa.
You have
Blushing right now.
You have 10 years for me to spell it all out. No. And so I said, sign this. And so I just got a few autographs and everything. So all of a sudden with just the two of us, so he starts, coming up to me, he said, is that all you? And he, goes down the sides of the outfit I've got on. I said, yes. And so he starts holding me and kissing around on me. And, we're just having a little time there. And it's just the two of us. Okay.
Seriously, guys, put yourself there. Just the two of them. Just the two of them. She was a beautiful lady. Look at them. These pictures show she was a beauty. Obviously, Elvis is very young. Guys, she's walked in. Elvis is a beautiful girl coming into his dressing room. Most people were kept out. The only reason she got in is because she had the telegram from Colonel Tom Parker. So it's probably quite surprised that she's been able to get so close to him. It's pretty obvious he found her attractive, took a chance to give her a kiss, and a bit of a cuddle. So, my God, lucky lady. Could you imagine that? Just a normal fan, a tiny little fan club with her friends, and now she's being kissed and hugged by Elvis.
This was much better than I expected.
Yeah.
I was liking every minute. You've seen some of these pictures. I think some of them are behind me somewhere. I'm not
okay.
sure. Anyway, so we just had a really nice little time together. And so then some photographers came in and he kept it going on, from, more people came in the room and so forth, and they were taking pictures. And so, that was it. And
I think it's, guys, a dream come true, isn't it? It literally is a dream come true. But look at her. She's lovely. Look at what she's wearing. She just looks really cool. Elvis looks great. Looks very young. I don't know what age he is there, but I think it's 1956, isn't it, guys? So, 21 years old.
that was exciting. And I was on stage with him on the wings when he was doing his concert there in San Antonio. And I got
so she even got to watch him in concert at San Antonio. She was there to the side watching. It's amazing.
some great pictures. But I also was doing the bob. I was doing my thing when he was singing. So when they had a break, I was dancing. They all turned around and looked at me. Somebody got a picture of it, or I got a picture of it. But I was doing the bop, and so after he came off stage, he said, "What was that you were doing?" I said, "Well, that's the bop." And he said, "Okay, well, let's do some of this." So we did a little bit of dancing there backstage together. Just
it's amazing. So she introduced him to the bop, and they were doing the bop together backstage. Obviously, great picture. Wow, what an experience that woman had. Let's keep listening.
Some heel toe, some of the bop stuff. And Scotty Moore, who plays the guitar, he played some music a little bit. So we had a little private time. And then he was going to
a little private time. We had a little private time.
Do another show later. So we had, but
I don't think she's going to tell us what really happened this year. I think she's keeping it tight-lipped. But lucky lady.
he couldn't get out because there was 3,000 people outside the auditorium. And so he said, well, let's go play some music. So he found an organ. It was backstage and it was real quiet. And he sat down and played some private songs. That was my first thing.
Wow, guys, the experience that this lady experienced just on the very first time meeting him, the first day, even sat with him while he sings songs at the piano, sitting with him, watching him perform. Crazy.
Yeah. Do you need anything else? Not really.
Wow, no, that was awesome. I didn't know all of that.
I'm good with that.
Well, we're going to get back to Elvis here in a little bit, but I want to talk to you about your dancing and your movie career, because you starred in a movie, Rock Baby Rock.
So this leads on to other things in her life, obviously running the fan club. But here we go. She actually becomes a minor celebrity, doesn't she? She's obviously very obsessed with the whole rock and roll scene. So let's keep listening, guys.
Rocket? Was that the name of it? Right. And I saw some little clips of that. And again, girl, you and your moves. I'm just saying. I
mean, look at her. You can tell this lady is not a shy lady, yeah?
It was blown away. How did that come about?
It came about with Hank Ballard and the Midnighters in the underground rock and roll movement of the 50s that I referenced earlier. We had those dance parties. I called them bop parties. And we were...
Guys, did you ever go to dance party, bop party? Put it in the comments, guys.
Always doing the bop, and doing that. And I just got into it deeper and deeper and more like, let's really do what we feel here, what I'm feeling. I'm not going to worry about how I look or anything like that. Just dance like nobody's watching, like we say today. And
I like that saying, dance like nobody's watching. Love it. Dance like nobody's watching. I know that feeling.
I just really got into the music and just, let myself go to it. And in the movie Rock Baby Rocket, I didn't get to choose my music, even though it was okay, but it wasn't the rock and roll that I would normally be dancing to. But I was just going along with it. I was just trying to be a good sport. It wasn't exactly my rock and roll. I would like to take that dance and put it to Elvis singing Blue Suede Shoes or something. Then you can see more, It was hard for me to get in the mood, let's put it that way. But I did the best I could. But thank you for that. And I still dance around myself when I do, instead of exercising, I do dancing. I've always liked it, music, and stayed active. Maybe it's helped me over the years.
You mentioned something just a minute ago that struck me. You said that you would just get into the music. You didn't care about how you looked. You were really into having fun and feeling the moment and feeling the music. And that is a very good point to share with a lot of our viewers and listeners, especially our younger generation coming up, because sometimes, especially with what we have today with social media and this image that a lot of girls feel like they have to meet up to be considered pretty or popular. And you in your life rebelled against that, not caring what this image that is stereotypical for each generation. And you concentrated on what's going to make you happy and successful. Can we talk a little bit more about that?
I think you hit on to something. I wasn't really trying to impress anybody. I never had that in my mind. I was just having fun. And if you want to come along, okay. I mean, anybody wants to come along with it and get into the groove with it, that's fine with me. And the Elvis thing, yeah, I liked Elvis. I liked the rock and roll music. I like what it represented. And of course, he was, the worst thing about Elvis is he was just too cute. That made him public domain. That means that nobody's going to ever have this guy. He's going to
see that I remember this. Nobody's going to ever have this guy. He was public domain. Really, what she's saying is that no woman was going to properly be able to tie Elvis down. I think, come on, he was too cute. He was too full of life, too ambitious, very ambitious. He really had a mission, didn't he? But don't forget, this new sensation sweeping through America and around the world. You know, of course, England, Canada, Australia, you name it. Everything was changing. There was this new music that was exploding. So all the teenagers' heads were turned. Everyone wanted to be like Elvis. Everyone wanted to be, the teenagers wanted to be part of this rock and roll scene, how to dress, how to dance, the music they were listening to, you know, Radio Caroline, all this massive, all these radio stations that were playing this new rockabilly, rock and roll music. Of course, you know, Kay says, I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to be part of it. Yeah. And she almost says that things have gone from being boring to being extremely exciting. Could you imagine growing up in the mid-50s and how this just completely took over everything with the teenagers? She wanted to be right in there, in the thick of it. And fortunately, because of her actions, you know, with the little fan club, which eventually led through the Colonel with her meeting Elvis and becoming very close to Elvis. It then leads to these opportunities with her dancing, with these little movie clips. It's just unbelievable. But I think what she's really trying to say is that there was never a plan. This is what I want to do. You want to join in with me? Join in with me. We can have fun together. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She never had an agenda. She was just loving being that age, heavily involved in the rock and roll, rockabilly scene. Obviously, these amazing opportunities where she meets Elvis, which open new doors. She's just a very, very lucky lady. I imagine myself in the 50s. I tell you what, I would have been doing the hair, wearing the clothes, dancing. I would have been doing everything I can to really involve myself in the rock and roll scene, the mid-50s, Elvis Presley.
Going to be everybody's guy. And so you better think about something else to do if you have that thought. But I think you're right.
You see what she says? You better think of something else to do if you have that thought. No one was going to tie Elvis down. Yeah? No one was going to tie him down. It was very difficult for this man, this beautiful man, this gifted man, to go, okay, then I'm going to go and put my slippers on and sit down on the sofa and watch TV. He was never going to do that. There was almost like a firecracker, a firework that was lit in Elvis's insides that was going to explode, and no one was going to hold him back.
I was following my own path at the time. Yes.
And in a lot of ways, you and Elvis had that in common, because both of you were staying true to yourself in a lot of ways. And that has to have led to a lot of your success, personally, yours and Elvis's.
Marion Keister at some records said, well, who do you sound like? He said, I don't sound like nobody. Double negative. Yeah. I don't sound like nobody. And I think that he was not trying to be somebody else. I think he loved the rock and roll music, and he loved the black rock and roll, and he incorporated that into his.
He sure did. Sure did, guys.
All right, Mama, his own, even though it was original black singer that did it and wrote the song. It wasn't Elvis, but whenever he put his touch on it, he made it his own. You know, he his own individual. You would be like you'd never heard the song before. You know, if you played the two records side by side. I think that individuality and uniqueness that he allowed himself to express is something that we all need in our society. When
guys, great pictures, isn't it? Stunning pictures.
Everybody's trying to press you into their cookie cutter. Don't go there. Don't let them. I mean, I think you need to be who you are, and because otherwise you're just going to be
well said.
Suppressed. Maybe
suppressed,
even depressed on top of it. And it's hard to please everybody. You're not going to please them no matter what.
I think even the Baz Luhrmann show shows this. At the first half of the Baz Luhrmann film Elvis, the teenagers are suddenly like, whoa, what's happening?
You do. And so you just kind of throw out your best and be true to yourself and follow your path and have your own answer to yourself about what you do and what you don't do.
Great advice.
And I think,
Great
I
advice.
identify with Elvis, and that I think that we kind of feel bad about when he got into the movies. Some of those movies, you know, the Jailhouse Rock, the King Creole, the Love Me Tenderly was good, but some of the other movies became cookie cutter, and he was just mostly kind of doing what they said, you know, rock a hula, get
I think
up
we
and
agree with
down,
that.
sing this song. You know, he wasn't picking the songs; they were picking a soundtrack to sell with the movie. You know,
well said. Well
whether
said.
or not they were, and he kind of made a departure from rock and roll, which.
Yeah, even John Lennon mentions this, doesn't he? He thinks that the movies really, it was almost like Elvis had stopped. But, you know, it's a funny one because now looking back, you know, I'm 57, you know, the movies were, because obviously Kay was there through the 50s. She's much older, so she experienced, you know, all that scene through the 50s, the rock and roll scene. But the movies, no matter, you know, what negative things are said about them. When I was a little kid at home in the 70s and they were rerunning these movies, they're also part of why I loved Elvis. So I did love the cheesy movies. I loved seeing Elvis singing all these different movie songs. So now looking back, I really appreciate the movies. But I understand what she's saying as well. Elvis was this rebellious rock and roll rebel. And then the movies seemed to tame him. You know, not the initial ones. You know, after King Creole, it all became very tame, didn't it? Like GI Blues and onwards. And I think this is the point she's trying to make.
Caught him a lot of criticism from rock people, you know, the 70s rockers and people, you know, Elvis, you know, he's doing Las Vegas, he's doing all these funky movies, he did these funky movies, you know, he's gained weight, you know, he's not the true rebel. But I think Elvis was always the true rebel. And I think his compromising and trying to make Parker happy and do what this one said and that one said, and, you know, for the guaranteed millions he's going to make a movie, I think it compromised his individuality and probably how he felt in his own mind about himself. And that left him with regrets. And when you get too many regrets and you're sitting around thinking about it, that's not a good place to be. And I think that some of the latter part of his life, you know, he talked about the movie. He didn't like some of those movies and he wanted to be a more serious actor. And, you know, but he got caught up in the fact that the lifestyle that he had and the people that were on his payroll and his obligations, he became like a company, you know. And
so every word she says, I just agree with. She's very wise, but obviously she knows she was an insider. You know, the truth is Elvis, I think, was suppressed after 1960, after the, you know, when he comes out of the army and he gets on with his movie career, he was held back. You know, a lot of people blame Colonel Tom Parker, but there's a lot of reasons. You know, he had massive commitments. He needed a certain amount of money coming in to pay everyone. So a different Elvis comes out through the 60s, you know, right up until he finished the movies. We get the beginning of Elvis coming back with the 68 comeback. But really, up until that point, a different Elvis. I do think within 3 or 4 years of Elvis making these movies, he felt suffocated. Couldn't be who he truly was. So I think this is what Kay is saying.
And he had to go out there and do his thing like the dancing bear, you know, the circus. He had to get out there and make the money. And he's had all these people in his payroll. These guys,
Right.
families.
And I think she's right. It did become a circus. It did become like a circus.
So he got into that routine in the latter years of his life. And I think that was sad. That was sad.
I think it is forgotten that
I agree.
Elvis was responsible for a lot of people's livelihood. And that has to put a whole different type of pressure when you yourself is the sole responsible person for families that are depending on that income to support their families, feed their kids.
And to think about that he had to go out there no matter how he felt. And, you know, some of those latter concerts, you see him kind of look up at the ceiling and kind of look down. And he's thinking, God, get me through this one more time. You can almost feel that prayer in him, that he was just coming in on a wing and a prayer on some of those last concerts, especially that last one that was televised, that film with the white suit on. But he's saying how great thou art, and just it's almost like a heavenly voice. I mean, you couldn't keep your tear out of your eyes listening to him, because it was like with his last breath, almost close to it, you know, it was months away. The death was months away.
Right.
So I think that, you know, he had a lot of conflicted thinking about what he had done in the past, what he had allowed Parker to push him into, what happened with his mother, his personal life, and the value system, of course, that he was raised, you know, in Assembly of God church, and Tupelo, that was all they really had, was that church. They were very, very poor beyond anything you and I could ever think of. And
so true.
I think that
Very
that
true,
was
guys.
their comfort, and that was their zone of faith and freedom and hope.
And guys, this woman, every word she said, so spot on, isn't it, guys? She really gets Elvis. She really gets it. This is obviously quite a sad part of the interview, but she's on it. She's on it.
And I think Elvis had that throughout his life. And I think that's why he always got up and had almost every concert. He'd put a you know, how great thou art, and glory, hallelujah. And he loved the gospel music. It was kind of his way of paying back maybe the comfort that it gave his family, his mother and him growing up. But you can't get away with that. When you bring a child up with that kind of hope and faith, it's always imprinted. It's an imprint. And I think always Elvis had that imprint. And like a lot of us, he didn't always walk the perfect walk, but I think he tried to talk the perfect talk. But having said that, I think that at the end of his life, you know, he was probably finding more faith and grace to go on with what he was going on. And I think that helped him through the ladder to the end, to the very end.
When was the last time you saw Elvis alive?
The last time I saw Elvis alive in person was in Hollywood, November of 1957. It was at the press premiere, not the premiere of Jailhouse Rock. It was just the press. I don't know whether he saw the movie, but Colonel made him go to the press conference. And I was there with Judy Spreckles, and I wasn't expected to be there. She had an invite for two. So she said, Judy Spreckles was a friend of Elvis's. I don't know if you've ever gone back and say that. And she was a friend of mine in Hollywood. I was out in Hollywood making the Hot Rod game with Gene Vincent. And so Judy Spreckles looked me up, and she was like super nice. And, you know, and I kind of had lost a lot of my connection with Parker.
So I'm going to look up Judy Spreckles. I'm very interested in that name.
And so I didn't have an invite to the press conference, but she had two. So she said, come with me. I said, okay. And so we went, and we were sitting there. And so everybody's waiting for Elvis to walk in. And he walks in the room. He looks the room up and down. Everybody's waiting for him to say something. He screams across the room, is that you, Kay? I mean, it's me, Elvis. That, you know, everybody turns around and looking at me. I'm thinking, hi. But he couldn't figure out what in the world I was doing out there in Hollywood. It's probably what he was thinking. Because the last time I had walked out of his hotel room in Shreveport, Louisiana, at the Louisiana Hayride, and that's the last time we met in 1956, in December 15th, 1956. And so the next time he sees me is November of 1957, and there I'm in Hollywood sitting at his press conference, and he's thinking.
Yeah, I see that. It's a bit of a difference, isn't it, guys? But he liked her, didn't he? He did like her.
is that Kay? At least he remembered me.
Right, right.
And so, you know, that was the last words. He was just a recognition by him. I guess who needs anything else? Huh?
No.
Sounds
that
about
was
right.
good.
Just the
That was good.
recognition.
We're good with that.
So did
Okay, guys, we're coming to the end bit now, but I'm gonna take a little break, and then I'm gonna come back and read The Faith of Elvis on Defending Elvis. We're gonna read chapter 5 because I find that I can't do it at night because I'm too tired. So a couple of minutes left, guys.
do you follow Elvis's career through the 60s and the 70s?
Yes, I mean, you know, I loved the 1968 special, you know, when he sings Trying to Get to You in that black leather outfit. I go, oh, I mean, that's my favorite Elvis performance, okay? Because when he said, and then also when he does that, baby, tell me what you want me to do, always flashback.
Oh, I love that song. Oh my gosh. It's something about the way he sings it. And it's like, yes. Yes. Big fan.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I never was, well, I guess probably early on you could call me an obsessive Elvis fan, but as I got older, you know, I had my own life, I had things going on and my kids. And so I'm not an obsessive, I don't consider myself continually obsessive, which I guess is all right. And so, but I've always favored him and I've always loved his music. That's never gone away.
I mean, guys, this lady Kay, she's just lovely. I'm so pleased that this exists. Obviously, just very fascinating. A real eye opener. Really understanding Elvis in '56, and she reads Elvis like a book, doesn't she? She really does understand everything about Elvis, right to the day he passed. And God, what an interesting life this lady had, guys.
So yeah, I kept a following of it. Yeah. And also of all kinds of music. I like all kinds of music. I'm a music person, even throughout all the time.
So can you tell us where you were the day that you heard the news that Elvis had died?
I had set up a nonprofit organization in the 70s that kind of dealt with the hippies and the love peace people that were doing rock and roll. And I never told them I knew Elvis or anything. So I was at my outreach center there in Houston, where I set up and I had quite a thing going on there. And somebody came out, and I was like in the front yard or something, and somebody came out and rushed and screamed, "Elvis is dead!" And
So sad.
the first thing that hit me was it's all over. I mean, we're all gonna die. All of a sudden, I think my own mortality was the main thing that kind of hit me. If the king is dead, the court is on the way. You know, it was like, yeah, he's gone, so we're going. It was like a kind of
so
an
sad,
awesome
guys.
moment.
So sad.
It was a real sad moment, but it was also a moment of, golly, if Elvis can die, anybody can die. You know, you just didn't think about that. You know, that he was big.
Come on, guys. We all know where we were the day he passed. Yeah, we all remember it. You know, it's just, I get so many comments, people, where they were, who they were with, what time it was, just literally everything. People, it's like a moment frozen in time, isn't it, guys?
Bigger than life, and he wasn't that old.
Miss Wheeler, I want to ask you, being that you have lived through so many different historical moments in our American history, and being that you are someone that beats to the sound of her own drum, do you have any advice for the young people today and how they, as they are entering adulthood, do you have any advice to them as they go out and make it into the world?
My advice is the thing has been the main thing in my life. It's kept me the focus and changed me a lot. So when I came back from Hollywood and I was only 19, it was like,
her advice is, I take it very seriously, guys. She's a very wise woman, very intelligent woman as well.
I had seen the whole fame and fortune of Elvis. He did seem that happy the last time I saw him.
Oh.
And I was thinking about, what am I going to do? Am I just rock and roll hoochie coo, or who am I? So I decided to enroll in college and try to find out, what's my focus? What's my path? I've done that. I mean, I've been there, I've done that, and it didn't seem that satisfying. And it didn't seem like anything that was going to hold my attention really. And I got into the real depth of what life is all about. And in part of my studies, I wanted to be a speechwriter. I studied law, but in journalism. And I got interested. I was going to use a Bible quote for a speech because Kennedy was going to deliver it the day he died. There was a Bible quote at the end of the speech, and he never got to give. So I thought, well, I want to learn some quotes. I'm going to get some good quotes out in case I'm from the speeches. I was doing a little local speech writing there in Dallas for the Democratic Party. And so I started reading a couple, and I was disturbed about, the very, very poor and the very rich and how the kids suffered and so forth. That was kind of being awakened to some of the injustices in our society. And when I read it, Jesus said, if you've got two coats, share one with somebody that doesn't. If somebody's hungry, feed them. And I thought, this guy is not talking what I'm hearing in our world today, which is just seek your own, satisfy yourself, get as much money as you can get, and you'll be happy forever and ever because you have the most toys when you die. And I thought that was shallow Hal, big time.
Very shallow.
I perceived that at 19, 20, and 20 years old. Okay. And so I said,
Wow.
And then I read in Solomon, it said, he was the big king of the day. I had big houses, I had servants, I had everything. And behold, it was like vanity and vexation of spirit. And there's nothing new on the earth. I said, nailed. That guy's got it. But he's not talking like everybody else around the world. And so I got impressed with that. And I think that we all kind of see that in our innermost person, that the self-indulgent, self-seeking, wealth-seeking is not really that fulfilling at the end of the day, and that we need to get a focus and a faith in our own heart. And that's my testimony right there. That's the secret of my strength. Eat your heart out.
Wow. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Of course, we honor Jamie Kay. What a lovely lady. What a beautiful lady. Like, so wise in so many ways. She really did get to see the real Elvis. She knew the real Elvis. I think in her own way, she also says that fame and fortune can do a lot of damage and doesn't bring you happiness. Which I agree with. I think, I've always believed that if Elvis hadn't have become famous, he would have lived a very full life. I've always thought that. Fame did some harm, didn't it, guys? Did some harm. But us millions and millions of fans around the world that have been affected by Elvis Presley, if Elvis hadn't have become famous, we wouldn't know him, would we? It's just complicated, guys. It's very sad, very sad. A sad ending for her, because she spent, obviously, when she was very young, seeing this excited man that was full of life, ready to change the world. And then she also then sees things gradually going wrong. And we all know how it ends. So, a beautiful interview. And I really thank the person for that interview. I'm not sure if it doesn't actually say the name of the person who does the interview, because I found this interview on EP Fan Archives collection of videos. Let's have a look. So it doesn't. Let me just see if it mentions the lady. I'd like to say her name. Do any of you know the name of this lady? No, it doesn't say. I'd love to give her a mention, because I thought she gives a lovely interview, doesn't she, with Kay? Do any of you know? I don't think you do, guys. But so welcome to the new person. We always welcome new people. Sproutopia. Is it Sproutopia? Welcome to we're Team Elvis. We're a small community. We are Elvis defenders, but we also jump between the two channels. So we have Defending Elvis Presley, where we do live streams every day and we defend Elvis and Lisa and the bloodline. And then we come here for the light-hearted topics. We do the books, we do obviously the interviews, the song reactions, the movie stuff. We do talk about the diet here, carnivore diet, keto diet. We try and help each other's health. We want to live longer. We want to live healthier lives, which is why I am an Elvis Presley fan on keto. At the moment, I'm on carnivore, but I do switch to keto when my weight drops. So we do care about each other's health here. It's not just Elvis, it's Elvis Presley Fan on keto. So we will discuss the diet. Anyway, guys, my plan is to have a little break and then I'm going to come back in about half an hour and we are going to read chapter 5 of the Faith of Elvis. Many of you know that we have connected with Billy Stanley, one of Elvis's stepbrothers. He supports what we do. He supports our channels. He wants to be our friend. We want to be his friend. We want to learn all about Elvis. He has a very strong Christian belief. The book is obviously a very Christian book, The Faith of Elvis. Elvis talks to us through this book. This is what I find fascinating about this book. So we're going to do it on Defending Elvis around half an hour. We're going to be there. We're going to do a live stream. We're going to read chapter 5, have a little chat, and go from there. So thanks for joining me, guys. I've loved it this morning. I've posted 4 song reactions this morning. I really love doing the song reactions, guys. I love it. It really makes my morning. I find it very relaxing. So thanks all of you guys for joining me here. We're going to do some dog walks as well today and have some discussions on both channels. So please subscribe to Defending Elvis Presley. Please subscribe to Elvis Presley Fan on Keto. Thanks, guys. All the best to you.